If you haven't been following along with current events, I'm going to give you a brief summary of what's going on, just so you're up to speed. Basically, at this point right now, what is happening is the NFA is getting viciously attacked. There was this decision made by a Supreme Court judge. It's called the Bruen decision. And with that decision being made, it basically makes it impossible for a lower court to prosecute an NFA case and still stay compliant with the Supreme Court's decision. So, we are basically looking at dominoes. If you are unfamiliar with what a domino is, it's a game piece. I don't actually know anyone that knows how to play the game, but what they'll do is they'll set them up and they'll make chain reaction. It's a rectangle piece. It's roughly 2 inches tall, 1 inch wide, and 7/16 thick. And they will stand up on end by themselves. And you can put them right next to each other, but if one falls down, it causes a chain reaction, forcing all of them to fall down. And people do really cool things with it. And that's basically what's going on right now with NFA cases. So what the NFA is it was made in 1934, and it was a direct tax on the Second Amendment. Now, I know there have been hundreds of Supreme Court cases that have covered and basically said the NFA is unconstitutional, but then they'll throw a little clause in there and basically be like, well, this doesn't apply to the NFA. Until the Bruen decision, that was a specific firearms case. So, the NFA, last time it was challenged, was in 1939 with the Miller decision. And that is because there have been a bunch of gatekeepers. They've been watching the courts, and they do not allow a Second Amendment case to go through because they know, on its face, it is unconstitutional. It has two big problems with it. Number one, again, on its face is unconstitutional. The next one, it violates the Interstate Commerce Clause. The feds only have jurisdiction from state-to-state transaction, state-to-tribe transaction, and overseas affairs. Therefore, if, say for example, I were to order a bunch of machine gun parts, it doesn't matter from where, but I manufactured said machine gun right here and never left this state, I never sold it to anyone out of state, I can do whatever I want with it, and the feds have no jurisdiction on it. Well, in the NFA, they put a little clause in there that says, yes, they do have jurisdiction on it, and that has been a huge problem. Many other cases have went up to the Supreme Court, and they ruled that no, the feds don't have jurisdiction on it, except in the NFA. So that is the major two problems with the NFA and why it needs to fall. It's unconstitutional, violates Interstate Commerce Clause. Well, anyway, the state of Texas is suing the ATF because the state of Texas told their residents, hey, you guys can manufacture silencers here. You can do whatever you want with them. As long as that silencer does not leave Texas, it doesn't matter. They don't have jurisdiction. And they're 100% right. Well, that's been working its way up through the court system, and now they just added on about the Bruen decision.
The state of Texas has now just amended their lawsuit against the ATF in their Made in Texas suppressor lawsuit. This lawsuit is now using the recent Supreme Court decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruen to argue that the ATF and the NFA have no history or tradition which supports their control of these items. Because there is no history or tradition that supports the federal regulation of Made in Texas suppressors, the state of Texas is asking the court for a permanent injunction against the regulation and taxation of these suppressors.
What's going on with the Bruen decision? How is that affecting the NFA? Well, there's a ladder that needs to be climbed. Right now, the step number one was opening Pandora's box. That would be the United States versus Matthew Hoover. In that particular case, what had happened is they brought up the Bruen decision. That just opened Pandora's box. Once it's open, it can't be closed. Now you will see every single NFA case after this point reference the Bruen decision. In that particular case, it doesn't matter if it's dismissed, tried, not tried, found guilty, found innocent. It's irrelevant. All it was hitting the first rung on the ladder, opening Pandora's box, setting out a framework. A lot of that will be cut and pasted in every single NFA case after this. Again, the outcome of that case is irrelevant because all it had to do was open Pandora's box. Well, Texas, they're going up to the next rung in the ladder because there's a couple different rungs. You got Pandora's box. I'm going to oversimplify this. You got trial court, appeals court, and then finally Supreme Court. And currently, the ATF is way too exposed. They have their neck laying way out there, just waiting for somebody to take a big old bite out of it. A lot of that comes down with their 80% rules, because they have no jurisdiction. Now, if you sell that 80% in a different state, yes, then they would have jurisdiction. However, they have zero jurisdiction on what can go on with manufacturing your own firearm, and they're trying to get jurisdiction there. Way overexposed. Pistol braces, because they put out rules and then back down on them and then changed them and then back down on them, and they keep changing it. No ordinary man is capable of following what exactly they want done with the pistol brace rule, and now they just made a new rule that's even more complicated to where it will be impossible to follow what they want to do. Again, overexposed on it. How can you expect the common man to be able to follow a rule that changes at the drop of a hat consistently over a period of time? Nobody knows what the hell is going on. Nobody knows how to follow their rules. And there's so many other cases where they're just way overexposed. All of these are going to start to pile up. Even cases where they're not overexposed, they're going to keep piling up. You're going to be stacking up the dominoes. And only one of those dominoes need to fall, and the whole house of cards just comes falling down.
Coolest thing I've ever made.
And that's currently where we're at. Now, I do foresee them playing damage control and doing a couple of things. I'm going to make some guesses on what they might do, whether or not they're correct or not. These are just my guesses. These are what I would do in their position if I wanted to hang on to the NFA, because without the NFA, they don't have a job. There is no job for them. They would have to change their name to something else, probably ATW. Alcohol, tobacco, and weed. That's probably what it'll be changed to. Because, again, without the NFA, there is no job for them. They don't have anything to do. So, what I would do to hang on to the NFA just a little bit longer, number one, I would dismiss all the sketchy cases right now. I would just take my loss on it, lick my wounds, and move forward. Because they have way too many sketchy cases going on right now. Again, Texas is a huge one. Texas is 100% correct. They have zero jurisdiction in Texas. I would drop that case. I would drop any other sketchy case. Unless it's a slam dunk case where I know I can get the person to plea out, I would just drop it. Because every case that they try to move up through the court system that's a sketchy case is a domino just teetering on its side. It only needs a little blow from one trial court or one district court or one appeals court or from the Supreme Court to just take the whole house of cards down. So after I did that, the next one I would do, I would focus my cases more on cases that are clear violations of the Interstate Commerce Clause. So like, somebody gets picked up, they have a couple of pounds of heroin, and inside, next to this heroin is a machine gun that was manufactured in a totally different state. Well, they've clearly violated interstate commerce. That is a case I would prosecute. I would go after that one and just forget about everything else. If it's not a clear violation of the Interstate Commerce Clause, I wouldn't worry about it because it's probably not going to go through, and then it's going to wind up moving up the ladder. All you need is one case to make it up the ladder, and it's game over. So after I did that, I would start limiting my exposure. I would peel back. Again, I would focus on clear violations of the Interstate Commerce Clause, and that's where I would hang out, because that would be really hard to argue against in the Supreme Court. Next one they could do is reopen the registry. Basically, survive off of the NFA by itself and eliminate the GCA. The GCA was done in 1968, and that basically closed the registry on machine guns. It did a bunch of other crazy crap, but that's a big one it did. If they reopen the registry, that would allow them to collect taxes and still stay relevant for a period of time. No matter what, this will ultimately go up to the Supreme Court, and they will ultimately likely lose the NFA. I mean, you never know what the Supreme Court's going to do, and I'm not going to pretend like I know what they're going to do because it's all just a roll of the dice. But with all the framework set in place and there's no longer those gatekeepers, they have long died off, we're likely to see an NFA case make it up to the Supreme Court and possibly shut down the NFA. So reopen the GCA. And then what I would do is avoid the Supreme Court at all costs. Now, I know there's a law preventing them from doing this. However, New York has been doing it for years. Nobody shut New York down. Basically, any case where I couldn't get the party to plea out, I would just drop. Or if a case made it up to like Appeals court, I would immediately drop. Problem solved. No reason to take it up to higher courts because you can't run up the ladder unless you get unfavorable decisions. So let's pretend that person X, which would be this marker right here, gets found guilty. Well, now he can go up to the next run in the ladder. Without him being found guilty, it's case closed. So as long as they prevent them from climbing up the ladder, well, then they don't have anything to worry about. Never makes it up to the Supreme Court. They never lose their ability to have the NFA. Just my opinion, that's how I would handle it if I was trying to hang on to the NFA and I was in their position. But a big one most definitely would be, don't let it go up to the Supreme Court. If I don't have a solid case and they won't take a plea bargain, I would just drop it. Now, I feel like I can confidently say the ATF's brightest and smartest are currently working on this tirelessly, day and night, trying to figure out exactly how to do it without taking drastic measures for damage control. But in my opinion, they don't have an out. They're not so much in checkmate, but they're definitely in check, and they're being forced to make a move right now. That would be the most logical move in my head. They'll probably come up with something I never even thought of that is completely crazy that somehow saves the day. Anyway, appreciate you guys watching my video. If you'd like to help support the channel, I have my affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links, even if you don't purchase what that particular link is for, just clicking on it and doing the Amazon shopping you were already going to do anyway, that'll kick back for it because you came there off my channel. I also have my Patreon. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.